After securing a guaranteed spot in Harvard, I decided to skip the SAT. The moment the school's golden boy, Clive Smollett, heard that, he stormed over and punched me across the face. Everyone else has to take the SAT. Why the hell do you get a free pass? Because you're scared you're not actually the genius you think you are. And you're afraid the whole campus will find out. Ha. In my last life, during the SAT, Clive's essay was identical to mine. Word for word. I asked the proctor, my own sister, and my childhood friend, who was in the same exam room, to back me up. Instead, they begged the school to go easy on me, saying I should be allowed to retake the test, since it's my first offense. By the time the scandal blew up, everyone cursed my name and accused me of being a cheater and plagiarist. And since I couldn't prove I was innocent, I got expelled. To make things worse, they got me permanently banned from taking the test again. Mom and Dad were doxxed and harassed online. They lost their jobs and aged 10 years. Overnight, their son went from being on top to hitting rock bottom. Depression hit hard. On a winter night, I took my life, and suddenly, I woke up back to the week before the SAT. Denny, I made some avocado toast with smoked salmon. Eat first before you study. You've lost weight. My sister Charlie's wit placed the plate on my desk, even taking the time to bring some blueberry protein smoothie. For a second, I nearly fell out of my chair in surprise. Just then my best friend, Gina Baxter, walked in, adding another food container on my desk. I heard you haven't been eating much. Here, I made some hummus for you so you can eat well again. I've been through this before. Twice in my last life. I thought I was the luckiest person in the world. I got a sister 7 years older, who always took care of me, and a childhood friend who wasn't blood, but felt closer than family. But now that I was back in my life, their efforts just broke my heart. Back then, when I took the admission test, my essay was identical to Clive's, down to the last word. The grading committee caught it immediately and reported it to the college board. As a student who got recommended to be admitted to Harvard, I had a real shot at being the highest scorer in SAT. But the moment this incident broke, I was caught in a storm of public opinion. I begged Charles, who was my proctor then, and Gina, who took the exam in the same room, to help me clear my name, but they refused. My sister even apologized on my behalf, asking Peyton College Preparatory High School to let me repeat the year, instead of kicking me out. Since the academic dishonesty was my first offense, the incident sparked an uproar online. I was like, wow, he had the nerve to cheat. And then turns out his own sister was the proctor. That's basically an inside job, right? Exactly. Cheaters like this guy should be banned from taking the SAT forever. It's only fair to everyone. Absolutely. He wants to retake the exam. Dream on. With all the backlash, the school shut down Charlie's request. Not long after the exam results were released, I, the school's top student, barely scraped past 200 points. Meanwhile, Clive, the guy who always ranked at the bottom, miraculously became the state's top scorer in SAT. His essay was even published as a model answer, praised by teachers across the state. And just like that, he became the revered genius scholar, and I became a cheater and plagiarist. Due to the severity of the misconduct, I was permanently banned from taking the exam. The school also refused to issue my high school diploma. Without a degree, my only option was to be a delivery guy. But customers would dump their orders on me and leave bad reviews. Just for fun. Because of me, my parents lost their jobs. Stress broke them. To pay their medical bills, I took a warehouse job sorting packages. Unfortunately, within days, my boss recognized me. He refused to pay me and even threw me out onto the street. With no money and hope left, I lost all reason to keep going on. A snowy night. In complete despair, I plunged into a lake on the verge of freezing over. But when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the week leading up to my college entrance exams, staring at my sister, who was meticulously helping me prepare, and my childhood friend, who was eagerly trying to nourish me back to health. I felt a mix of emotions. Danny, I made a list of all the possible essay prompts. If you study these, I guarantee you'll get the perfect score, Charlie said confidently, as she placed a neatly compiled list of topics in front of me. Next to her, Gina teased me. You better land that top spot, Denny. I've been feeding you hummus all week. Don't embarrass the chickpeas and tahini. It was meant to be a joke. But I couldn't bring myself to laugh. Charlene's was my sister. She'd never stabbed me in the back. Gina had grown up with me. She had always been sharp-tongued, but fiercely protective. In fact, once someone talked shit about me, and she nearly got into a fight over it. So it couldn't have been them. Then where did it all go wrong? I had been an outstanding student my whole life, consistently ranking first in my grade, even after transferring to one of the most competitive schools in Illinois. I never dropped out of the top 3. Mr. Carmichael, my homeroom teacher, even bet I'd land a spot at Harvard. That's why when the so-called academic dishonesty scandal broke, most of my classmates and teachers stood by me. I had won writing competitions before. I had no reason to cheat and plagiarize. But then Clive leaked the security footage from the testing room. The video showed that he turned in his paper 10 minutes before I did. And before the test, he had posted his own essay predictions on his blog, breaking down the exact topic and themes. His essay followed the exact structure of his earlier post. For a while, the netizens' nasty comments almost drowned me. It's caught in 4K. Denzel Witt straight up stole Clive's work. The evidence is undeniable. And that cheater still pretends he's a victim. I heard that liar has always aced his class. Guess all his grades before were just stolen work that went unnoticed. Thank God his own sister and best friend didn't cover for him. Imagine letting the real victim take the fall. The scandal blew up so fast that it became trending. The college board took this matter seriously and immediately launched an investigation, analyzing the evidence Clive presented. After verification, the surveillance footage and blog posts were proven authentic, with no signs of tampering. They concluded that I was indeed a cheater and plagiarist. Was completely blindsided. I swear to God, that essay was mine. How the hell was I the one who copied? But I had no proof to defend myself. And what I couldn't figure out was how did Clive's essay turn out? Exactly like mine. Did the essay prompts that Charlie's predicted somehow get to him? Mystery after mystery surrounded me. But right now, Charlie's and Gina weren't acting suspicious. If I wanted answers, I needed to start with Clive's social media. If I remembered correctly, his essay prediction post should have already been up. But with Charles and Gina keeping a close watch on me, I hastily scribbled down a rough outline of an essay to make myself look convincing, then clutched my stomach. I need to use the bathroom, I muttered. Gina shot me an unimpressed look. Seriously, you still have a lot to study, Danny. Charles basically handed you the potential topics. You're still looking for ways to slack off. Charlene's quickly waved my friend off. There's still time. Give him a break. As long as he follows my advice, he'll do well. But I didn't have much time to uncover the truth. Once inside the bathroom, I locked the door and pulled up Clive's blog profile. It was well known that his parents were professors at Harvard, and thanks to his looks and connections, he had a decent online following. I never really had much connection with Clive, but Charlene's was a teaching assistant at Harvard and Stanford, so she had met Clive a few times. Once, I overheard her telling Gina that Clive was the definition of boyfriend material, unlike me, who was just a bookish nerd. My sister also said that if Gina were going to date someone, it should be a guy like Clive, wealthy and good-looking. At the time I thought Charlene's was just joking, but looking back now maybe she actually meant it. Even so, I still couldn't understand why would someone like Clive, practically born with a silver spoon, go out of his way to screw me over? Just then I saw his latest post on his blog. He claimed he had predicted the essay topics for the SAT, and was sharing it with everyone. The moment I saw it, I froze. That was the exact topic Charlize had predicted for me. On top of that, Clive even posted his own so-called unique insights about it. Word for word. They were identical to the notes I had casually jotted down on my scratch paper. The comments were full of people hyping him up. Damn. Not only is he hot, but he's also insanely smart and generous. He even shares his SAT predictions with everyone. What a true angel. Seriously. If I saw this topic on the test, I would have gone completely blank. Good thing I read his analysis in advance. Predicting the same topic might just be a coincidence. But how could his essay outline be exactly the same as mine? The only people who had been in my study room were Charlene's and Gina. It had to be them. A chill ran down my spine at that. Thought I couldn't wrap my head around why they would do this. Blood and years of friendship. Really worth less than knowing Clive for just half a year? I sat on the toilet for an hour thinking it over. Then I made up my mind. I had to take a different approach. I already knew the essay topic for this year's SAT. In my last life, I got accused of plagiarism. But that essay was actually my best work. It scored high but not a perfect score. This time I was going to write the essay in Old English. Since Clive's essay had been an exact copy of mine in my last life, I'd just rewrite the whole damn thing. No matter the final score. At least I could shake off the plagiarism accusations. Early the next morning, before Charlene's woke up, I snuck out and went to Grandma's place. To be honest, I was hesitant. Writing my SAT essay in Old English was not only ridiculously hard, but also a huge gamble. The moment I arrived, Grandma handed me a bowl of oatmeal. My sweet boy, what's wrong? You look troubled. I forced a bitter smile. Grandma, if I don't get into Harvard, are you going to be disappointed? She patted my head, her eyes full of warmth. Billy boy, of course not. I just want you to be happy. Denny, even if you don't get in, you still have me. I'll take care of you. Hearing those words, my resolve hardened. As I left Grandma's place, I got a call from Charlene's. Annie, Where the hell did you go? Gina brought you breakfast. But you weren't there. Now she's upset. I replied flatly. I went out to buy some study materials. I'll be back soon. I wasn't planning on telling them about my new essay strategy. After all, they were the prime suspects in the plagiarism scandal last time. Instead, I headed to the library to rework my essay plan. It was also the perfect place to do some research. After hours of writing, I stretched and leaned back for a quick break. I was curious what would happen to Clive this time. Just as I was lost in thought, Charlene's and Gina walked in. I was a little confused. How did they know I was here? The next second, Charlene's placed a warm lunchbox on my desk. Figured you'd be too caught up studying to eat. So I brought you something. Meanwhile, Gina handed me a cup. Coffee. Your stomach's weak, so it's decaf. Their sincerity was written all over their faces. Didn't look like they meant any harm. Had I been overthinking things? But if it wasn't them, then who? My mind was a mess, but I managed to squeeze out a smile. Perfect timing. I was just getting hungry. Let me wash my hands first. Then I'll dig in. With that, I grabbed my phone and headed to the restroom. But instead of going into the men's room, I stopped by the sinks and opened Clive's Facebook blog. Sure enough, he had a new post. Guys, you won't believe it. When I shared my predicted essay topics for the SAT, someone straight up copied my outline. The predictions might not even be right, but that's just nasty. Anyways, I'm reworking my entire essay plan. Attached was a photo of a guy studying in the library. Anyone familiar with me could tell that was my silhouette. Just who on earth took that photo? In the comments, someone asked what Clive's new essay plan was. I've replied I'd write it in Old English. This time I froze. I hadn't told anyone I was planning to write in Old English. Even if it was just a coincidence. Why would Clive choose a style he wasn't even good at? There had to be a spy around me. Was it Charlene's? Was it Gina? Or were they both in on it? But why? What were they after? Just then, someone patted me on the back. Denny. Gina's voice was soft, concerned. She was standing behind me, holding a pack of tissues. You okay? You've been staring at the mirror for like 5 minutes. I quickly pocketed my phone, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Yeah, just nervous. Pre-test jitters. She smiled, that familiar, lopsided grin I had known since kindergarten. Don't sweat it. You're gonna crush it. You always do. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Was it a mask? Was there a camera hidden in her button-up shirt? Or maybe Charlize had bugged my backpack. Thanks, G, I said, forcing my voice to sound steady. Let's go eat. As we ate, I watched them. Charlize was scrolling through her phone, occasionally chuckling at something. Gina was picking the carrots out of her salad, just like she always did. They seemed perfectly normal, perfectly loving. But Clive knew about the Old English. He knew I was in the library. I finished my lunch and went back to my notes. I wrote down a fake essay plan, a standard, 5-paragraph structure about climate change. I left it open on the desk while I went to browse the stacks for a book on medieval syntax. When I came back, the notebook was exactly where I left it, but the pen was slightly askew. That night, I checked Clive's blog again. New strategy, he wrote. Forget the classics. I'm going modern. Climate change is the key. Here's my outline. It was my fake plan. Word for word. I sat back in my chair, the cold realization washing over me. They were feeding him everything. Every thought, every draft, every strategy. But how? I looked around my room. I checked for cameras. Nothing. I checked my laptop for spyware. Clean. Then my eyes landed on the gift Gina had given me last week. A new high-tech desk lamp with a built-in wireless charger. Study bright, she had said with a wink. I unplugged it. I turned it over. I unscrewed the base. There, nestled among the wires, was a tiny blinking red light. A microphone. And a transmitter. I felt sick. Physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up the hummus Gina had made me. They weren't just betraying me. They were actively surveillance me. My own sister. My best friend. Why? Money. Was Clive paying them? Or was it something darker? I remembered Charlize's comment about Clive being boyfriend material. I remembered Gina's obsession with social status. Maybe they thought hitching their wagon to the golden boy was a better bet than sticking with the nerdy brother, who might get into Harvard on a scholarship, but would never have old money clout. I put the lamp back together. I plugged it in. Okay, I whispered to the empty room. You want a show? I'll give you a show. Chapter 4. The Bait. The week before the SAT is usually a time of frantic cramming. For me, it became a theater production. I sat at my desk, under the glow of the spy lamp, and I talked to myself. I read out loud from books I wasn't actually studying. I drafted essays on topics I knew would never appear. Wow, I said loudly on Tuesday night. This analysis of the Great Gatsby as a metaphor for cryptocurrency is brilliant. Clive would never think of this. Wednesday morning, Clive posted, Why Gatsby predicted Bitcoin, a deep dive. I laughed. It was bitter, but it was a laugh. But I needed to be sure about the final blow. I needed a plan that was plagiarism-proof. Something so specific, so personal, that even if he copied it, he would look insane. I started writing my real essay. Not in Old English. Not about climate change. I wrote about a boy who discovers his sister and best friend are spies. I wrote it as a fictional allegory, of course. The betrayal of Caesar. I used Latin quotes. I used specific metaphors about lamps that listen, and hummus that tastes like guilt. I wrote it by hand, in the park, far away from any electronics. I memorized it. Then I burned the paper. Back in my room, under the lamp, I started my final prep. Okay, I announced to the microphone. I've decided. I'm going with the quantum physics prompt. It's risky, but the board loves STEM. Here is my thesis. I spent 3 hours detailing a complex, completely fabricated theory about quantum entanglement and literature. It sounded smart. It sounded Harvard-ready. It was also complete gibberish if you actually knew physics. Thursday morning. Clive's blog, Quantum Entanglement. The Future of Literary Criticism. Gotcha. Chapter 5, Test Day. The morning of the SAT was gray and cold. Charlize drove me. She was humming along to the radio, looking cheerful. You ready, Denny? She asked, squeezing my knee. Ready as I'll ever be, I said. Remember, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. Quantum physics. Stick to the plan. I froze. I hadn't told her about the quantum physics plan. I had only told the lamp. She realized her mistake instantly. Her eyes widened. I heard you muttering about it, she stammered. Through the door. Right, I said. Through the door. We pulled up to the school. Gina was waiting by the entrance. She hugged me tight. Good luck, she whispered. Make us proud. I will, I said. I really will. I walked into the testing center. The proctor was Mr. Henderson, a strict old man who hated cheaters. Charlize wasn't proctoring this time. Too close to home, maybe, or maybe she was busy managing Clive's feed. I sat down. Clive was 3 rows ahead of me. He turned around and smirked. He looked confident. He looked like a winner. The test began. I breezed through the math. I crushed the reading comprehension. Then came the essay. Prompt. Does adversity make us stronger, or does it merely reveal who we truly are? I smiled. It was perfect. I picked up my pencil. I didn't write about quantum physics. I didn't write about Gatsby. I wrote the betrayal of Caesar. I wrote about trust. I wrote about the pain of realizing the people you love are selling you out for a scrap of attention from a golden idol. I used the Latin quotes. I wove in the metaphors about the listening lamp. It was raw. It was angry. It was the best thing I had ever written. I finished with 10 minutes to spare. I looked up. Clive was sweating. He was erasing furiously. He looked panicked. He had pre-written the quantum physics essay in his head. He was trying to force it into a prompt about adversity. It wasn't working. The bell rang. Pencils down. As I walked out, Clive shoulder-checked me. You changed it, he hissed. You little rat. You changed the topic. I didn't change anything, Clive, I said calmly. I just answered the prompt. Didn't you? He glared at me with pure hatred. You're dead. You hear me? You're done. Chapter 6. The Fallout. The results wouldn't be out for weeks. But the storm broke sooner than that. 2 days after the test, I walked into the living room to find my parents sitting on the couch. They looked grave. Charlize was crying in the corner. Danny, my dad said. We need to talk. About what? About the cheating, my mom whispered. What cheating? Charlize looked up, her eyes red. Clive. Clive filed a report. He says you stole his essay idea. He has audio recordings, Danny, of you planning it. SAT.The. Audio recordings? From where? From he didn't say, she sobbed. But he sent them to the board. They sound like you, Danny, talking about quantum physics. And let me guess, I said, my voice cold. His essay was about quantum physics? Yes. She wailed. And because he turned his in first, or something, they think you copied him. How could I copy him if I didn't know what he was writing? He says you hacked his blog. My parents looked at me with disappointment. Danny, why? You're smart. You didn't need to do this. I looked at the lamp on my desk, visible through the open door of my bedroom. I didn't cheat, I said. And I can prove it. How? My dad asked. Because I didn't write about quantum physics. The room went silent. What? Charlize stopped crying. I wrote about betrayal. I said, looking directly at my sister. I wrote about a sister who plants a bug in her brother's lamp to feed his ideas to a rich kid she wants to date. Charlize's face drained of color. She looked like a ghost. I don't know what you're talking about. I walked into my room. I grabbed the lamp. I brought it out and smashed the base against the coffee table. The plastic shattered. The bug fell out. Explain this, I said. My parents stared at the device. Charlize, my mom whispered. It was Gina's idea. Charlize screamed, cracking instantly. She said Clive could get us into the Harvard parties. She said he could introduce us to investors for my startup. All we had to do was help him pass. By destroying your brother? My dad roared. I had never heard him yell like that. He was going to get in anyway, she cried. He's a genius. He didn't need the help. Clive needed it. We thought it wouldn't matter. It matters, I said. It matters because you chose him over me. Chapter 7, The Reckoning. The investigation was swift. I submitted the bug to the school board. I submitted the timestamps of my fake study sessions versus Clive's blog posts. I submitted a sworn affidavit about the content of my actual essay. When the college board read my essay, The Betrayal of Caesar, and compared it to Clive's garbled, incoherent mess about quantum physics and adversity, the truth was undeniable. Clive's essay didn't even make sense. He had tried to shoehorn a physics theory into a philosophy prompt. It scored a 2. My essay scored a perfect 12. But the real justice came from the fallout. Clive's parents tried to bribe the board to keep it quiet. It leaked. The golden boy was exposed as a fraud who needed a spy ring to pass a high school test. Harvard rescinded his acceptance letter. Charlize was kicked out of her master's program when the ethics committee heard about her involvement. Gina simply vanished from my life. I heard she transferred to a community college 3 states away. My parents were heartbroken, but they rallied. They apologized. They went to therapy. We're rebuilding, slowly. I got into Harvard. On my own merit. On my first day on campus, walking through the yard, I saw a familiar face. It was Clive. He wasn't a student. He was delivering pizzas. Our eyes met. He looked bitter, angry, defeated. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just kept walking. I had a library to get to. And this time, I was going to study in peace. Epilogue. Years later, I became a writer. My first book was a thriller about academic espionage. It was a bestseller. I dedicated it to Grandma, to the only one who never needed a lamp to see the truth. And as for the SAT, I never took it again. Once was enough. Sometimes the test isn't about what you know. It's about who you are when the lights go out. And I passed.